how good are we as an intelligence matrix? And how do agencies deal with these? We keep hearing these honey traps.
No, honey traps, actually, this was a favorite of the Russians.
Did you come back with Masood Azhar?
I did. They came back with me.
You are saying that you will someday write a book on Ajit Doval.
I would love to do a book with him. I would stop writing after that. When Umar was contesting the parliament election, Dr. Saab told me I will be chief minister. But everything changed, Kashmir is also a religious issue.
370?
370 ab naam ke vaste hai. What Brijesh Mishra said to him.
What did he say to him?
Dr. Saab, aap Delhi aa jaiye. Would you like to be vice president? The importance of Pakistan has eroded. Hazur, I've been talking to you for almost 2 hours now.
Hello and welcome. In the modern world, every nation in terms of statecraft needs a few things. It needs military power, it needs diplomacy, it needs economic strength and intelligence. It also needs a band of men and women who don't go for self-adulation, they opt for anonymity, and they are in proverbial languages called the spies or the spooks or the men from the intelligence agencies. To understand where does intelligence gathering stand in the modern India context, the Viksit Bharat context, to understand what has happened in the past, have some lessons been learnt, I have with me somebody who is not just an accomplished spook. He has headed 2 of the top agencies as far as internal and external agencies, intelligence gathering is concerned, but also is somebody who had a matrix of thoughts on perhaps handling one of the most vexing crises India has ever had, that is Kashmir. Mr. A.S. Dulat, welcome to the show. We're very happy to have you.
Thank
we
you.
had to chase you for a very long time to get you here.
Thank you.
In fact, we started doing it when IC-814 was hijacked. And I remember you telling a lot of people in the interviews that you usually seek your wife's permission for writing a book. But does that hold good for even interviews?
Yeah, it does. My wife has the last word.
So today, when
I had to tell her that I'm going down.
You had to tell her.
And she said, how long will you be away? And I said, half an hour.
You see, as we sit here, elections in Jammu and Kashmir after a long gap, and after, I think, a huge tectonic shift in Kashmir. It has changed the rules with which Kashmir is with India. How do you see the situation post-elections?
I think this has been a great election and a great result, if you ask me. A resounding victory for the National Conference. And not just for the National Conference, but for Kashmir. And I think it's the perfect result. I had been speaking and arguing for a long time about the return of the political and democratic process. Now we have the democratic process back, and we hope it will encourage the political process as well. By political process, obviously I mean engagement, which has been missing all these years. The last time we tried to engage with anybody, if you recall, was during Atalji's time, when we started talking to the Hurriyat. But there were just 2 rounds of talks that Advaniji conducted, and then it all fizzled out because the government changed. Dr. Manmohan Singh was even more intense about Kashmir and Pakistan, and he tried his best, but nothing happened. It didn't work.
I'll come to that later. When you say a peaceful election has been conducted.
Yes, yes, yes.
What do you attribute it to? How could peaceful elections, at one time it could have been an oxymoron.
Yeah, it's a peaceful election because the people of Kashmir wanted an election. The people of Kashmir desperately want a government of their own. It's been far too long that they have been run by outsiders. When I say outsiders, the bureaucracy is all outside. Some from the south, some from the east, some from the west, but very few Kashmiris there.
For that matter, the Lieutenant Governor also.
The Lieutenant Governor is from UP. So actually, the normal remark in Kashmir or Srinagar was that it's UP is ruling Kashmir. So I mean, therefore, the Kashmiris wanted an election, wanted a government, and now they'll have a government.
Omar, you expected it to happen as Chief Minister?
I'll tell you what I expected, and the Parliament election changed all that. What I expected was that Omar would come to Delhi and Dr. Saab would run Kashmir. But unfortunately, as you know, Omar lost the Parliament election, the Baramulla seat, and therefore had to go back and fight all over again. And I must say, to his credit, he's fought very hard, he's fought very well. Even this time, he fought 2 seats. I don't know why.
That on the ground, when one watches Kashmir today, and the situation, if you include what happened before, since 2019, include that with a government formation, don't you think, just a thought, that Farooq Abdullah was the most suited man to be heading Kashmir at this moment?
You're asking me that question? Yeah, the point is, you go to Kashmir, visit Kashmir anytime. People there, even those who don't like him, will tell you that Farooq is by far the tallest leader in Kashmir.
Yes, the landscape has nobody
else.
There is
nobody has any doubts about that. And if people had doubts, he settled those doubts once and for all with this election. This is, as I said, Omar fought very hard and full marks to him. But this election has been Farooq's election, and it has been Kashmir's election. The victory is for Farooq, for the National Conference, and for Kashmir. Soon after, after the abrogation and after the release of these leaders who had been under house arrest and things, one of the first to come to Delhi was my friend Sajjad Lone. And we had lunch together. And I asked him, because if you remember at that time, the PAGD had been formed.
Yeah.
And Farooq stressed on togetherness. We have to unite or perish. So Sajjad was a part of that PAGD. So I talked to Sajjad, and he said, I am very impressed with Dr. Saab.
Really?
Yeah. He said, in his new avatar, and these are Sajjad's words, in his new avatar, Dr. Saab is a man possessed, determined to fight not only for the return of statehood, but the dignity of Kashmir. So I think today, Dr. Saab has redeemed that dignity of Kashmir. And now you will see, in time to come, Kashmiris will not be treated as just nobodies.
Do you see an arrangement in which Omar Abdullah is the administrator, but the thought and the process comes from Farooq Abdullah?
No, I don't see that. Omar is his own man. Yes. This will be Omar's government.
And also a very popular among the youth. That's one factor. He brings a different worldview also.
You see that what has impressed me most of all is the smooth transition from father to son. There have been a lot of stories that father and son don't get along. Whatever way they get along. It's been the smoothest transition. If you go back to 2000...
but it's always the son.
Of course it is. A son is a son is a son. If you go back to 2002, Dr. Saab was not very keen on Umar becoming
Why?
chief minister. He felt it was too early. He had a lot to learn. And he kept saying, why is Delhi in such a hurry? Anyway, Umar lost his election and that was the end of the matter. If you recall, even 2008, when Umar became chief minister, it was quite amusing that the night before that or the day before that, in an interview to Barkha Dutt, when Barkha said, so Umar is going to be chief minister, he said, why?
Why?
I'll be chief minister. But this time, it's been very clear.
The moment results declared, Farooq Saab was very clear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can tell you that when Umar was contesting the parliament election, Dr. Saab told me I will be chief minister. But everything changed, you know. That Umar's loss has become Umar's gain now.
Now there is a very tough situation. The National Conference has come to power with two promises which are the closest to the skin as far as the Kashmiris are concerned. One is repealing of the abrogation 370 and full statehood, restoration. Now in that, things are not going to happen quickly. Can it happen?
Of course it will happen. Statehood will happen.
370?
370 ab naam ke vaste hai. I don't think anybody is going to fight seriously for 370. If at all, if the the National Conference wants to keep up the charade, it will be in court.
Okay.
Yeah. The real thing that they want is statehood. And it will happen.
It will happen.
It will happen because if you've noticed, in the last couple of days, the statements that Umar has made, he has repeatedly said, we want a good relationship with the center. He doesn't say a good relationship with the BJP, but he says a good relationship with the center. The center will try and woo him, if you ask me.
By offering statehood?
By whatever, yeah.
Why do you say that? That's curious.
That's the way the logic, I see the logic. You know, now, the interesting thing here is, and there lies the catch, and you're forgetting this because you've not mentioned it, that the National Conference is in an alliance with the Congress. And that alliance must also survive.
Is it also because that the two critical stakeholders which we see during the election campaign, Teen Parivar, BJP's campaign, the two of the critical families and stakeholders in Kashmir are together at this moment?
Absolutely together, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why, and it's a pity that the Congress didn't get more seats in Jammu. I thought they would. But it is important at this point of time, what happens in the future, you know, everything is possible in politics, but at this point of time, they must stick together.
But Omar has expressed disappointment over the poor showing by the Congress party in Jammu.
Yeah.
In fact, the insinuation could well was also from a lot of voices in National Conference and the Valley that actually the Congress didn't contest with the zeal, and the National Conference, in fact, had it contested alone, would have won more seats.
Yeah, no, I won't go along with that. There is also a theory that, there are people in the Congress, in the Congress leadership in Kashmir, let me say, who also believe that if the Congress had gone alone, they would have done better.
Don't you think Pakistan remains
Yeah, it does. It does.
the most critical factor as far as lasting peace in
Not
Kashmir
the most
is concerned?
critical, but it is a factor. That critical part, I think, has gone.
Okay. Why?
The importance of, over a period of time, the importance of Pakistan has eroded. And I will take you back to 9/11. You remember when 9/11 happened? And who was it? Bush, who read the riot act to Musharraf, that either you're with us or you're against us. Nothing midway. So either you join the fight against terror or you lump it. and Musharraf joined this thing.
Do you think that the central government has
Now,
managed?
when he did that, the reaction, and I'm telling you the reaction of separatists at that time, was that if these guys can't fight for themselves, how can they fight for us? So it's been a downhill thing as far as Kashmir. I'm just giving you a moment.
Will you credit the government at the center for this redundance of Pakistan or the reduced
I
significance?
would give credit, of course, to the government and to various governments since 47 in Delhi, starting with Panditji's government. I would give credit to each government, but I would also give credit to the people of Kashmir, who are smarter than everybody else. Let me tell you that.
Okay.
What the Kashmiri knows, you will never know, I will never know. Only the Kashmiri knows.
Abrogation of 370?
Yeah, that.
Or do you think the 370 is there? 370.
Yeah,
what the government did in August 2019.
Okay, again I'll tell you. The Kashmiris surprised Delhi. He was taken by surprise, the Kashmiri.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't expect, even the Kashmiri leadership like Dr. Saab or Mehbooba or whoever, they didn't expect this to be done or to be done in this manner without their knowledge. But at the same time, Delhi expected, and Governor Satpal Malik anticipated, a big uprising in Kashmir. It didn't happen.
Why?
Because the Kashmiri thought about it. Why go out and get killed?
For this?
For nothing.
Is it because it was not worth fighting for?
It was worth fighting for, but it was not worth dying for.
Okay.
Let me put it like that.
You mean to say that it was, but do you think that lot was left of what 370 actually stood for in the 1950s?
I tell you something, I just said this offhand, dying for. The Kashmiri has realized over a period of time, and that's why Pakistani importance has eroded, that the gun has brought nothing but destruction to Kashmir. There have been uprisings, and these uprisings, mind you, will continue. I don't expect them to just finish because you have a state government. The Kashmiri will be happy. But there was a time, not long ago, a few years ago, when the problem was mostly in the south of Kashmir, that there were boys who came out and took to the gun and said they are not fighting for independence, they are not fighting for Pakistan, they are fighting for Allah. We want to die in the name of Allah. There was a short period of time.
What is the Kashmiri afraid of?
Everybody is afraid of dying.
Not just dying.
Yeah. Okay, that ways. Yeah, the ultimate fear of the Kashmiri. And I think now that they have a government of their own, it will be put to rest, thankful. There is a fear of the Kashmiri that he might be reduced to a minority in his own land. That is the ultimate fear. That is the real fear.
Why will that happen?
It's a fear.
94.8% or something is...
It's a fear. And it's been there not just because of abrogation. I have been hearing this from Kashmiri friends as far back as 20 years ago.
Is it a fear which is community specific, or it is a region specific fear, which includes Hindus, Muslims, Christians and everybody else?
It is religion based.
It is.
And whether we accept it or not, the problem in Kashmir, right from inception, also has been religion based. The point I'm trying to make is that this election, I don't want to go beyond that because then there's a story in it, but this election will help in the mainstreaming of the Jamaat. Now, it's very interesting, in this election, some of the separatists contacted me.
You? And?
And said that, I don't want to say that, so I'll leave it there.
Give us a hint, broad hint.
Broad hint is that at this point of time, they were willing to get involved.
In the election process.
What I had been asking them in 2000 or 2002, now they were willing to get involved.
But isn't that a position that Pakistan wants to have, where Jamaat kind of entities are there in the assembly, that mainstreaming helps Pakistan's voice?
I don't think so. Not anymore. Not anymore. I concede, I agree with you that Pakistan is a factor. And it is in our interest, as Dr. Saab keeps saying, to engage with Pakistan so that we'll have less problems in Kashmir.
Does the government act like a buffer between the center and the people of Kashmir in the state? You know, to absorb it, to soak it, to calm them.
Yeah, you need a bridge. And there has been no better bridge than Farooq Abdullah. But Delhi has not used him. Delhi has neglected him and wasted him. In time to come, he could still be President of India.
He could be President of India.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it.
Are you saving an anecdote for, or something you know for a future book? Or you will tell us how?
I don't know.
Did he come close to becoming President of India sometime?
No, he became close, or people made him believe in Delhi that he might become Vice President in 2002. And they fooled him even then.
Now,
I was a part of that whole thing. It happened in my presence, I'm a witness to it. He had been promised or assured Vice Presidentship.
By Mr. Vajpayee.
By the government of India.
That was Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Everybody. According to him, the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the National Security Advisor all had assured him.
That is
according to me, what I was a witness to was what Brijesh Mishra said to him.
What did he say to him?
Dr. Saab, aap Delhi aa jaiye. Would you like to be Vice President? That's what he
said. In
as
many words. Or maybe
the
structuring could have been different.
Yeah, that was the essence of it, yes.
And then, what did he say?
He said, yes, why not?
In this election, it was that the people, 370 was abrogated, statehood was removed. But is the story of betrayal in Jammu and Kashmir, or Kashmir, just 5 years old?
No, it goes back to Sheikh Saab's time. His arrest in 53 started the whole thing. And I've written about it. And you can check on this that when B.N. Malik, the DIB at that time, goes south and meets Rajaji, who had left Rajgopalachari, and who had left the Home Ministry because he preferred to be in his own state. And Rajaji says to him, why did we have to shut the door on Sheikh
Abdullah?
Yeah. Now you will never have peace in Kashmir. The interesting thing here is, and it starts with Jinnah, Quaid-e-Azam. He desperately wanted Kashmir. What was the obstacle? The obstacle was the Sheikh. He refused to go with Jinnah. And Pakistan has never forgiven the Abdullahs. They dislike the Abdullahs.
So you are saying that Sheikh Abdullah's arrest was one of the first major betrayals that happened?
I think it was a huge blunder.
But then what was...
Yeah, so if it was a blunder, it was a betrayal also, yeah.
What was 1984?
A bigger blunder. You see, I was coming to that. Pakistan has been watching all this. Why did trouble start only in 1988-89? Everybody says it was the 87 election which was rigged. I don't think that's a proper reading of Kashmir history. What happened was that so long as the Sheikh was alive, Pakistan could not cause disturbance in Kashmir. He would not allow it. So once the Sheikh was gone, then in my view, Pakistan started plotting and planning disturbances in Kashmir. And the bonus or the icing on the cake came with the dismissal of Farooq. Ye bhi gaya.
Who did it?
Indira Gandhi did it.
There is an interesting story about that. How
No, you have to read.
was gentleman was sent from here. The governor was moved from there.
That's what I was going to say.
We have a young audience.
Yeah. So
And they
that's
would-
what I'm saying.
They
Please.
love to hear stories from the horse's mouth.
No. So please read B.K. Nehru's book, Nice Guys Finished Second. He describes the whole thing. He was the governor there. And he had to be removed because he told Indira Gandhi, I won't do it. You're making a mistake.
What did she ask him? She wanted him.
She was indicating that Farooq needs to go. And he said, you're making a mistake. This should not happen. So she said, then you better go to Ahmedabad. And so Jagmohan was sent to do the hatchet job. I was sent to Kashmir. I was in Bhopal for 4 years. Very good, very comfortable 4 years because Madhya Pradesh is a lovely state, wonderful people.
It's a great city to retire.
Yeah. So I was in semi-retirement, you can say. It's not that I was not doing anything, but yeah, it was a very comfortable posting. From there I was sent to Kashmir, out of the blue. I was due to come back to headquarters.
Who sent you?
The boss,
Who was your boss at that time?
Narayanan, M.K. Narayanan.
Who went on to become the NSA?
Yes. And he was one of our great leaders.
What do you mean by great leader?
One of the best intelligence
Officers?
chiefs, yeah. So he sent me to Kashmir.
And when did you land and what did you see at that time?
And my, what I was told was that we need to keep Farooq Abdullah on our side. Rajiv was the Prime Minister. Rajiv was very keen that Farooq stays with Delhi. I said he is with Delhi. What's the problem?
But Rajiv restored sanity.
Yeah.
To such an extent.
So the point is that Farooq was with Delhi, and yet Delhi was apprehensive. That's how things are between Delhi and Kashmir.
Distrust.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I went to Kashmir. That's how I got to know Farooq, and that's how Farooq resigned, and that's how I was also kicked out of Kashmir. It's all a story. And when I went through hell in that winter of 89-90, so I was very relieved when I was told, pack your bags and go in March 90. And when I left, I thought, good riddance to Kashmir. I mean, this thing. Isse bahar rehna hi behtar hai. And then the chief brings me back to Kashmir. And then Kashmir never leaves me. If I had not gone to Kashmir, I would have been nothing. If people talk to me today, if you're talking to me today, the reason I assure you is Kashmir. You might think otherwise, but because I know nothing else. Kashmir is an obsession. And therefore,
That says a man who knows so much that he actually can't talk about it.
you're making me talk so much. The point here is that I follow Kashmir day and night.
Still?
Absolutely. Even today.
Do you pick up the phone in the middle of the night and kya ho raha hai?
No, I don't pick up the phone in the middle of the night, but I'm talking to Kashmiris every day.
And also, see, I will like to tell the viewers here that he talks about destiny, and it was sheer destiny that two not so happy events of terrorists being released in a barter or in a bargain. One was Home Minister of India, Mufti Mohd Sayeed's daughter, kidnapped Rubaiya Sayeed, terrorists released, and IC-814 that everybody in India was talking about just a few days ago In both cases, there was one Mr. Dulat in it.
It's purely accidental, you know,
Accidental negotiator.
no, I was not the negotiator in the second case. I was
No, in the first case, what happened?
in the first case, I was a negotiator.
How did you come to know? Just tell us what happened that day.
What happened was that, in fact, you know, the government was in Jammu. It was winter, and I was in Jammu. My DIB called me up, again, Mr. Narayanan, and said, where is the Home Minister's daughter? I didn't even know how many daughters Mufti had.
The Home Minister was Mr. Mufti Mohd.
Mufti Muhammad Said. I didn't even know how many daughters he had. I said, sir, must be at home. He says, do you know she's been kidnapped? I said, no. He said, you better go to Srinagar immediately. So I went to Srinagar immediately. And then the Chief Secretary, Musa Raza.
Yeah.
So Musa and I got into this act of trying to find a way to Rubaiya. And there were some people who helped. There was a journalist who helped.
So you found that Rubaiya Sayeed was kidnapped. How did you come to know who did it?
Oh, it was obvious that because it was the JKLF which was very active at that time. There was nobody else. So it was quite obvious that it is a JKLF deed. So interestingly, this fellow took us to the father of one of these boys, and the
Kidnappers.
Yeah, one of these JKLF boys, the kidnappers. And that boy's name was Ashfaq Wani, who unfortunately got killed soon after that. Wani's father was a clerk in the state government, and he agreed to come and talk to us. And the sum and substance of that conversation was that this is nothing, don't worry about that girl, she'll be all right. I assure you, these are good boys, they are my boys, that kind of stuff. All they want is the release of, you know, one of these guys was lying in hospital. He had a bullet injury, Hamid Sheikh. They want the release of Hamid Sheikh. I said, "Theek hai." We said, "Theek hai, kaise hoga?" So he said, why don't you hand him over to the Iranian embassy, which sounded weird. I said, "Theek hai, but suppose the Iranians don't accept him." मैंने कहा अगर इसको पार ही भेजना है तो we will facilitate his going across. हम करवा देंगे
To Pakistan.
to Pakistan. अब इस बीच क्या हुआ, because it was the Home Minister's daughter, and the Home Minister, being a Kashmiri, had so many friends. So every Tom, Dick, Harry, everybody got into the act. So my point, or the point I'm trying to make here is, when we talk about bargaining and releasing and negotiating, that was one case in which we could have done with actually releasing nobody or just one person, Hamid Sheikh. But at the end, because so many people got involved, it was a fit case for study on how not to negotiate.
But that opened
How not to negotiate.
that opened the
And
floodgates.
therefore, instead of one, we had to release 5 people.
Who do you blame? There was a Home Minister whose daughter is there. Did you see family happening first?
I don't want to blame anybody. I've told you, it was a fit case for study on how not to negotiate.
Now see, what Mr. Dulat is not doing here, this is what the agencies have their system, as and when needed basis. That's how information is shared. What he's not telling us, that actually Mufti Muhammad Sayeed's daughter Rubaiya was not the primary target.
No, she was the primary. She became the primary target.
Initially, it was.
Yeah, what you're telling me is a story I've written about. They wanted to pick up Farooq's daughter, Safia, but they couldn't get to her. They tried. You know, these boys were young, enthusiastic, naive, in a hurry. Kuch karna hai, drama karna hai, bada karna hai. That was the thinking. And so they looked around and they said, if we can pick up Farooq's daughter, you know,
Did she have your security or something?
So
Because she
that
used to be
is
in that
why
hospital larded.
that is why coming up to Gupkar was more difficult because of the security, whatever little security there was in those days. Till they discovered that there is also this girl who comes and goes at such and such time to Laldet. So much easier to pick her up. And after all, he is the Union Home Minister now. So she became a bigger target.
One question which I wanted to ask you, that given the situation in Kashmir over the last few years, you see, we have been chasing a very muscular policy. I'll come to who is doing it later, but a muscular policy. Now, in that muscular policy, what one has also found that Kashmir, when taken out of Kashmir into the politico-electoral arena across the country, it does bring a certain degree of polarizing dividends. And do you think that that becomes a stumbling block?
There is no connect between the Kashmiri Muslim and the Indian Muslim. I think from the Muslim point of view, it's a sad thing.
But it's to polarize the majority in the rest of the country.
It does or it doesn't, but there is no connect between the two.
Okay.
You know, you're trying to create a connect. Let me clear that there is no connect between the two.
Okay.
But yes, like I started with by saying that Kashmir is also a religious issue.
The Kandahar hijack.
Yeah, in that I was nothing.
Where were you sitting on that day?
I was chief of the R&AW at that time, and so yeah, I was part of that whole crisis management group. And
But it is said that it met very late. It took a lot of time.
No, that's
Because Vajpayee ji was flying from, along with Sharad Yadav, in fact, from Bihar.
Vajpayee ji had nothing to do with the crisis management group.
Okay.
The crisis management group was headed by the cabinet secretary.
No, I know that.
Prabhat
But it
Kumar.
was that PM came to know much later.
Yeah, PM was also in the air. But that had nothing to do with the crisis management group. It met immediately and started thinking or hoping and believing and things like that. But that's what happened.
And?
Then for our good fortune, credit to the captain Devi Sharan, he landed the plane in Amritsar. Everybody thought that it was a great opportunity for us. And I've said many times that we goofed in Amritsar. But now, having seen this series on 814, I feel that maybe it was best that nothing happened in Amritsar.
Why?
You see, I'll tell you why. The key to this whole thing was the DG Punjab, who also got flack. DG Punjab, who happened to be a friend, said that I have the commandos, we can go in and storm the place, but how many casualties there will be? Nobody wanted bloodshed. Let's look at it this way. Neither Delhi nor Punjab. Because Sarabjit, the DG Punjab says, his chief minister said, "Bhai, Amritsar mein khoon kharaba nahi hona chahiye."
You went to Jammu?
I went to Jammu.
Yes.
It was the
Because
month.
the capital was at that time,
Yeah,
it was
it was
December, winter,
Yeah,
and the
it was-
capital
yeah.
JNK was in Jammu.
I
Darbar.
went on the 30th of December, and it was the month of Ramzan. Once the decision was taken in the morning, I think the meeting was held at about 11 o'clock. A decision was taken given to those demands, release those three fellows.
So who told Farooq Abdullah that this is going to happen?
Yeah, I'll come to that. So, सब कुछ हो गया, okay, ठीक है. Our negotiators were already there. They were telling us that this is how it can be done. And the negotiators included Mr. Doval,
The current NSA.
the current NSA. And he said, भाई ऐसे है, ये हो सकता है, जल्दी करिए, क्या करना है. तो फिर हुआ. जब हुआ तो फिर somebody realized कि भाई 2 out of these 3 fellows are in Kashmir. वो एक तो यहाँ तिहार में था, वो फारूक शेख के क्या उसका नाम था, और 2 वहाँ थे.
Mushtaq Zargar and Masood Azhar. Masood Azhar was in Court Bilawal.
That's right. That's right.
So, then?
So suddenly somebody
You
realized.
landed in Jammu, then?
Yeah, so I was sent to Jammu. And before I went, I asked Jaswant Singh ji, कि आप formally बता तो दीजिए Chief Minister को कि मैं आ रहा हूँ. So he called up Farooq, and then I went to my office and I called up Farooq. And I said, I'm coming. He said, I know you're coming. How? In fact, he even said, come and stay with me. So I went to Jammu. There, मेरी ऐसी तैसी हुई 2.5-3 घंटे.
क्यों?
He blasted me.
Who? Farooq Abdullah.
Farooq Abdullah.
What was it, when you told him, you met him, what was the first words?
He knew everything. His first words were, बैठो, मैं नमाज पढ़ के आता हूँ. He came, he had his juice and dates and whatever, and then he said, चलो उधर चलते हैं दूसरे कमरे में. He made me sit when I landed, when I entered, he made me sit on the dining table. Then he took me into the drawing room and gave me hell. I said, sir, I am not responsible, I am only a
What does hell mean?
भाई कि आप लोग गलती कर रहे हो, बहुत बड़ी गलती कर रहे हो, ये है. And you know, Dr. Saab has this great thing. He creates drama also. You know.
Isn't that flair?
उस ड्रामे में मेरी ऐसी तैसी हुई. बल्कि his first thing was, it's you again. You were there during. I said, sir, you are forgetting. At that time I was with you. I was posted there. I was with you. This time I have no role. I'm only a messenger. I have come to tell you कि ये करना है.
But it was normal to have somebody like you going for something like this? Or was it the good offices of Mr. Dulat being used?
Possibly. Possibly.
And that's smart of Vajpayee. That's smart of Brijesh Mishra or Vajpayee.
Yeah, it was Brijesh, not Vajpayee.
And then, so he gave you hell, and then he agreed. Then what happened?
So he rang up Jaswant Singh, gave him, told him what he thought. Then he rang up Advani ji, told him. सबकी ऐसी तैसी की, मतलब ऐसी तैसी नहीं, जैसे मेरी हुई उनकी नहीं हुई. At the end he said to me, he said, okay, one thing. You can take that bloody Masood Azhar. He means nothing to me. But this swine I will not release. Zargar. इसने बहुत लोगों को मारा है यहाँ. इसको मैं नहीं छोड़ूंगा.
कश्मीरी था.
कश्मीरी था. इसको नहीं छोड़ूंगा. मैंने कहा सर, the deal is both or nothing. इसमें I agree with you, but so it came down to this, then I will resign.
Farooq Abdullah offered to resign, threatened to.
He said, I will resign. So he rang up the governor. Gary Saxena was the governor. And he said, I will come to meet you. He told me I'm going to resign. मैंने कहा सर फिर मुझे साथ तो ले चलिए. He said, बैठो जीप में. So he drove the jeep and I sat with him.
Farooq Abdullah drove the jeep?
Yeah. And I sat with him. So we went to the governor. He said the same thing there. You know, these people in Delhi don't know what they're doing. They're making a big mistake. Same thing. Gary being Gary, he was smart enough. He said, Dr. Saab, you're a big man. You can't throw in the towel so easily. अगर दिल्ली ने फैसला किया है तो सोच समझ के किया होगा. I think we should go along with it. In the meantime, drinks were ordered. Dr. Saab sat down, we have a drink, and we came back. Matter was resolved.
And then?
So next day, I took.
Did you come back with Masood Azhar?
Yeah, I did. So they came back with me.
They came back with you. Okay. It was your plane. So both of them were in the same plane as you?
Yeah.
So you met them for the first time in the plane?
I didn't meet them.
Okay.
Meantime, I had got a message that Jaswant Singh ji is waiting for you. at Delhi airport. He'll be on the tarmac.
Panam technical.
So I told these people, I said, lao yaar inko jaldi. So when he brought them, they were blindfolded. So I said, बिठा दो इनको. तो बिठा दिया, उसके बाद वहाँ पर्दा लगा दिया. मैं आगे बैठ के आ गया वापस.
Were they nervous? Because, you know, they wouldn't have known what is happening.
No, they knew what was happening. They knew what was happening.
Why do you say that?
Because they were Pakistani agents, they knew. Actually, Masood Azhar के लिए पहले भी एक दो बार कोशिश हो चुकी थी. So he knew that now he was actually going. And this other fellow must have also known. It's not that they were not surprised.
So they came
or
to
if
Delhi.
they were surprised, they were pleasantly surprised. कि अब time आ गया हमारी.
So then you landed in Delhi.
I landed in Delhi and got off the plane and I said...
Jaswant Singh went in?
No, he didn't. He had his own plane. So I got off the plane. I didn't even meet Jaswant Singh. I just walked away to my car and I said, "Inko le jao."
You mean to say you never got to speak to any of them? They didn't utter a word?
No.
You couldn't hear them talking?
No. No, they were not talking. They were not a beep.
This happened at a time when there were advanced warnings. There were attempts to get Masood Azhar out. Despite that, we have seen that intelligence agencies, their inputs, eventually do not, it's a very tough task getting one bit of information. We saw Kargil happen. Kargil happened despite umpteen warnings from both the military watchers and the intelligence agencies, which was later made out by a committee that, okay, there was intelligence failure, which is a sweeping thing. But
you see, sorry, I'm interrupting you. This whole business of intelligence failure, this is a worldwide phenomenon. Whenever anything goes wrong, anywhere in the world, now there have been 2 attempts on Trump's life, so they say.
So he says.
Yeah. So that's an intelligence failure somewhere. If 9/11 happened, it was a huge intelligence failure. So these things keep happening, otherwise they won't happen. When the 7th of October happened, the Israelis were taken unaware. Wasn't it a huge intelligence failure of the Mossad? So I want to make 2 points here. One is that there is no such thing as
immaculate intelligence.
Yeah. Security or intelligence. We do our best. Sometimes the best is very good and sometimes it's forgotten. Sometimes there are failures. There will be failures. It's in the system. There's nothing which is perfect.
If you see Kashmir today, what has happened since 2019, that muscular policy, the holding of peaceful elections in Jammu and Kashmir, who do you credit? Do you credit also the National Security Advisor, your old colleague, friend?
You see, this whole business of...
Mr. Ajit Doval, I will take the name so that people don't confuse.
Yeah, Ajit Doval you're talking about. Yeah, he's a friend, he's a colleague, he's everything. I have a lot of respect for him. He's one of our best operatives, I've said that many times. Ajit and I have worked together on Kashmir. And our ways are different. And when he went to Kashmir, I said to him, I know you'll do it differently, you'll do it your way, but I also know you'll deliver. So he always delivers. Now this question of muscular policy, there are times when you need a muscular policy.
Is it the time?
Now?
No, before that, 2019 or something.
Yeah, there was a time, it did deliver, but it's only a means to an end.
Not the end.
Not the end. Ultimately, sir, you have to talk. You have to engage. That's why I said we have had the democratic process. Now we should take the political process.
That's where comes in
further.
what is being called as the Doval doctrine of muscular policy, of what is being called from outside hawkish. But is it Mr. Doval, or it is the policy of the Prime Minister and the party the Prime Minister comes from?
I think it's a mix of everything. But knowing Mr. Doval, he is of that bent, little hard line.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that if you deliver, if you can get the results, and he does deliver. And I've always said that he and Modi ji are made for each other.
When you say we deliver, the problem here is in India, we don't chronicle intelligence history. So when Mr.
Yeah,
Doval,
now
you talk about Mr. Doval or you talk about yourself, you never tell us what you did.
I did nothing.
Because what we know as a common public, my camera team, people outside, is only when you fail.
Now you're right, you're right. What is it? Mark Antony says that good that people do
Okay.
is forgotten. And people only remember.
No. See, I think
When
Shakespeare.
when he talks about, I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. I have been saying that Ajit Doval is one of our finest intelligence operatives or officers. I've said this.
You see, I also talked about his role
At the same time, I will say, without discourtesy to him, that he is building his own legend. The legend is being built. And you will see, I've written 4 books. You will see a book one
and
day.
a full chapter.
You will see one day a book on the great man.
You are saying that you will someday write a book on Ajit Doval.
I won't write a book. I'm nobody.
Or somebody.
If he were to say to me, write a book, I would do it very happily. What
Mr. Doval,
What
you won't
better-
find a better author. Practice
No.
three of them.
He has so many authors. I would love to do a book with him. I mean, that would...
That would be quite something.
I would stop writing after that.
You know, the Dulat doctrine and the Doval doctrine together.
Yeah.
You know, DD is...
I never heard of that till Satpal Malik told me one day.
That?
I had never met him.
Okay.
And we met at a function together a few years ago here. And, he's a heavily built man, he doesn't move easily. So we were sitting and I went up to him and I said, I'm Dulat. He says, आपके बारे में मैंने बहुत सुना है कश्मीर में. Dulat doctrine बहुत सुना है.
Yes, so you were open to talks, you were this thing. As, you don't, when I look at you, you don't come across as that typical cloak and dagger spy. The folklore says that Mr. Doval went in as a rickshaw puller, got inside Golden Temple, Operation Black Thunder, got valuable information out. Are there stories about you like that? You never went undercover wearing a fedora, dark glasses,
Wherever I went.
As you?
Almost as me, yeah.
No, there must be some stories you must be telling yourself that I did this.
No,
Did you go incognito as a spy somewhere? You can tell me that at least.
Oh yeah, of course there would be occasions. Yeah,
Dangerous situations?
Well, as I said, I can tell you this, that the winter of 89, 90 in Kashmir, those who lived through it, and you can ask other people, was a horrendous time. There were killings everywhere all the time. We lost, the Intelligence Bureau, in the space of 3 weeks, we lost 4 officers. And at one time, I felt I was...
What seniority were they? They were officers or?
Inspectors, that level. And
Which is the cutting edge. Which is actually the
cutting edge, yeah. One time I thought this is my only job, I'm sending bodies down to Delhi. And there were many times when I felt I had a very narrow escape. They were firing outside the house. There was a time...
Your house or out where you went?
Close to my house, adjoining house. There was an occasion when we were, crossing this bridge, Rajbagh Bridge, and I was going across. The CRPF had a mess there, and they invited me for lunch, and I was going across. And suddenly there was a huge explosion, and all the woodwork from the bridge flew off. So this driver stopped the car. I said, "Yaar, chalo." So he drove me to the mess, and he came back to check up, because he was a local, although he was a Sikh, but he belonged there. And he came back, and then he told me, in just the house outside the bridge, there had been an explosion. So these things were happening all the time.
So, in anger
let me put it
defense-
to you like this. I was living in a house, 29 Gupkar, where you had to come down about 50 steps. And every day when I came down those steps, I didn't know if I was going to come back again or not. That was the kind of feeling in those days. It was that bad.
Did a spy like you, spook like you, ever fire in anger or fear?
Fire what?
Fire a firearm.
No, I didn't. No, I never used a firearm.
Was it a policy thing, or you never got the need to?
No, we never used firearms in the army. We had. It's not that we didn't have. Yeah, there was a day when I wanted my driver to go to Anantnag to pick up somebody. Things were so bad that it was difficult to go to Anantnag. But being a local, he said, "I can do it, but I need a weapon." So we gave him a weapon, and he went and brought that person to me. I said, "Did you have a problem on the way?" He said, "Yeah, these boys were shouting Azadi." So he said, "I also joined them. Hum kya chahte hai, Azadi."
And then the attack on the Kashmiri Hindus, 90.
Yeah, there was, of course there was.
Could you see it happening? Coming?
To be honest, I couldn't see anything coming till it came. That was my shortcoming at that point of time. I was
Is it because what you say in your book,
I was
that the
new.
Kashmiri is very nice, but at times pushed into being devious?
Yeah, of course. Of course there is a deviousness about it. People say that some of our politicians here are devious. They don't realize that those guys there are much more devious. Does that satisfy you? Yeah, the Hurriyat used to come and meet me.
Okay.
And Ajit was then in the IB, number 2. And he said, "Why don't you also let me meet them?" I said, "No problem. We are colleagues. Why should you not meet them?" So in fact, I told the DIB. I said, "Ajit wants to meet the Hurriyat." He says, "But tumhare to tarike kharab hai na, galat hai."
Who said?
The DIB.
That was Shamal Datta.
KP Singh.
KP Singh. Okay.
After Shamal. I was in the PMO then, and so he said, "Tum to ghar pe milte ho. IB wale ghar pe nahi milte. So I will not allow Dole to meet them." I said, "Theek." I told Ajit, I said, "This is what your DIB says, but you are still welcome." So he came, met whoever he wanted to meet, talked to them. We all had, I think, tea and biscuits and khatam.
Then comes the time of, there was a long gap in brokering peace with the people in Kashmir. And what a lot of people, you have also written, is that the Vajpayee period was when a certain amount of earnestness was visible. But it was spoiled by, say, Vajpayee ji went to Lahore, Pakistan, that goodwill gesture, that bus, and there was tremendous amount of fanfare and bonhomie. After that, what happened?
You see, Vajpayee had two things which he used to talk to me about, because I was there to basically look at Kashmir. That this permanent confrontation with Pakistan has to end. That's why he took that bus to Lahore. And if I'll remind you, on the 17th of April 2003, he addressed a public meeting in Kashmir, in Srinagar, in which he said, मैंने दो बार पाकिस्तान की तरफ हाथ बढ़ाया है, दो बार इन्होंने मेरे से हमारे से दगा किया है.
What was this? The bus and Kargil?
Yeah, you see, also he was talking about Agra, I suppose.
The crash summit.
Yeah. So he said, but I haven't given up hope. I'm going to try one more time. And he did. He went to Islamabad for the SAARC summit in January 2004, just before they lost the elections. So when Vajpayee started talking about Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat, Kashmiriyat, so Kashmiri said कि भाई ये तो गोली मारने की बात नहीं कर रहा है. वाजपेयी ने तो कभी गोली की बात की नहीं, तो ये तो अच्छा इंसान है. There is some hope there. He gave the Kashmiri people hope.
And then?
Then he went.
Advaniji held talks?
So that's why I'm saying it was beginning when they lost the election. And as I mentioned, Dr. Manmohan Singh was more intense about it. But kahin pahunche nahi na.
See, when you mentioned Dr. Manmohan Singh, I remember I was on a trip to New York with him, and he met Mr. Jan Musharraf there, and there was an exchange of pictures from Mr. Musharraf gave some pictures of Dr. Manmohan Singh's village in Pakistan, where he used to study the school and everything. And at that time, I had asked Dr. Manmohan Singh that does he want to go to Pakistan? What happened? Why didn't Manmohan Singh, a Congress party, the perfect opportunity? The BJP still has a baggage of Hindutva and a lot of other things, suspicion. Congress never, and especially a Prime Minister born in Pakistan.
I don't know the Manmohan Singh that you knew, because I can only talk about the Manmohan Singh that I knew.
What did you know him?
I knew him when he was Prime Minister. I knew him before he was Prime Minister. I never ever found any dishonesty in that man.
Then?
And the subject I raised with him at least 8-10 times was the same subject that you're talking about, Pakistan. That why don't you go to Pakistan? They're waiting for you there. And I have maintained there was that great window of opportunity in 2006, 2007, up to February 2007, or maybe March 2007, because after that a lot of things happened. And Manmohan Singh's answer to me was that the people around me won't let me go.
Now that's the Prime Minister of the country saying?
Yeah. Now he was implying the politicians.
The party?
The party. He never mentioned Sonia, but he just said the party. But ultimately when I asked him about the bureaucracy, not that the bureaucracy leads the Prime Minister leads the bureaucracy. But I did ask him whether the bureaucracy was helpful. And he admitted, in whatever way, that he says there also there were some hawks.
You mean to say there was a situation in which the Prime Minister could not execute something as significant as Kashmir and talking to Pakistan?
No, Kashmiri had no problem. But I think, now I don't want to say this, because there are different times, different leaders, different this thing. In Vajpayee's time, he did it his way.
Vajpayee?
Was
it Vajpayee or Brajesh Mishra or somebody? Was it Vajpayee?
It was basically Vajpayee, but also Brajesh. In Manmohan Singh's time, he did it his way or the way his bureaucrats wanted. So I think, I shouldn't say this, but I think Vajpayee's way was better.
Better.
Better. Now people will
There
say,
was also
people
talk
will
that
say I'm saying this because I was a part of that whole thing. I'm saying it in all honesty that this Dr. Manmohan Singh had it all on a platter. And let me admit here and let me tell you here that, you see, Dr. Manmohan Singh took time over everything.
deliberated things.
Deliberation. You know, Vajpayee never deliberated. Once he made up his mind, he did something. It's done. And when it was done, nobody could question him. Dr. Manmohan Singh, poor man, he had to deliberate these things.
Lack
He
of
had to
authority?
think out these things.
Lack of authority, too many picket
No, it's
fences.
just that he felt he needed to think it out.
Okay.
Then Atalji acted more by instinct. You know?
Politician.
So therefore, actually, I always felt Dr. Manmohan Singh had it on a platter because nobody could blame him. He was only going to continue the policy
Or Vajpayee.
of Vajpayee.
In fact,
But the point is, because he took time, and there came a time very quickly when the BJP realized there's an opportunity to criticize his every move on Kashmir. The same Vajpayee began to say that you're going too fast on
I think that Sharmal Sheikh statement and agreement.
No, I don't know. I think
one
it's just-
factor which
you
I
see,
want
it
to.
brings me back to what Advani ji used to say, that if there is to be a settlement in Kashmir or there is to be a settlement with Pakistan, only we can do it. It requires a Hindu.
I remember, because I used to follow PMO, that just before or around the time when he went to SARC in Pakistan, you met Mr. Brajesh Mishra. And there were at that time a hope of restart of the dialogue with Pakistan.
कब की बात कर रहे हो?
2003, 4 when he went for SARC. 4 I think it was. Early 4, February 4 or something?
Yeah.
2004?
January.
January. Yeah.
Yeah, there was great expectation. Like there was expectation even in Agra. But I realized
There were 3 years of gap.
between Agra and Islamabad, Brajesh Mishra had worked very hard on his own back channel. And therefore he was a man, much more confident man. Because I remember telling him, I tell you the exact words, I remember telling him, you've gone all over, traveled all over the world, I've never asked to go anywhere. But I'm very keen to go to Pakistan.
You've not been to Pakistan?
That's another story. Okay. At that time, I had never been. So, this is what life does to you. So I said, मेरी बड़ी तमन्ना है पाकिस्तान देखने की. He said, नहीं इस बार नहीं. But I assure you अब बहुत मौके आने वाले हैं. तुम जाओगे पाकिस्तान. So,
It was a loaded statement.
it was quite clear.
Was Brajesh Mishra a non-serious man who would say it non-seriously?
He was a very serious man.
Or he was a very measured man?
He was a very serious man. And a very clever man. Much cleverer than he appeared. बहुत होशियार आदमी. बहुत तिगड़म थे उसके.
You seem to hold him in high regard. You kind of, I can sense a sense of
You see, it's like this.
a professional awe.
It was not even professional. I've worked with a lot of people. Okay. 37 years or whatever in government, and I've worked with a lot of people. But this man made you feel comfortable. He gave you a lot of authority, gave you a lot of openness.
But there was a lot of conflict between him and
Advani.
Advani?
And therefore I was the guy who caught it in the middle. You see, he would draw a line, Brajesh, and say, this is what we want, or the Prime Minister wants. You do it. I went to Kashmir, and there were these two separatists on the same flight, and we got off together. So it became a big story there. That Dulat was traveling with
Separatists.
two separatists. It became a story, and the media there started asking me, what have you come for? I said, I've come to play golf. So before I came back, there was a big story in the Express which appeared. Okay, Dulat, golf and diplomacy. So Brijesh called me and he said, कि भाई तुम्हारी बहुत publicity हो रही है. I don't want you to do anything for the next 3 weeks. Lie low.
So,
So
did you lie low in Kashmir or came back to Delhi?
No, I lay low in Delhi and I played golf in Delhi.
Now, one thing which I want to know, don't you see that the NS's job is a very tough job? Even today, Ajit Doval, because you have got a very, you've got a PM who has got his mind of his own, and you have your work sphere, there is a lot of overlap with the Home Ministry. You're virtually doing similar jobs.
Yeah, exactly. There is a contradiction there. In our system, there is a contradiction. Because this is a new post. It will evolve. I'm sure now, with Ajit, I'm sure it's evolving. What his relationship with Amit Shah is, I don't know. Some people say it's not so great. But as long as his relationship with the Prime Minister is good, and I'm sure it's very good, I don't think he should have a problem. But there is a contradiction here because, in a sense, it creates a second Home Minister.
Let's talk about the intelligence agencies.
Hazur, I've been talking to you for almost 2 hours now.
How good are we as an intelligence matrix?
Very, very good. As good as anybody.
The global perception, ISI is damn good. You and Mr. Durrani had exchanges on this, where he says that you are very good because...
General Saab Durrani says that you guys are better because you are professionals.
Career intelligence officers.
Exactly. Because he said, हमारे यहाँ फौजी आते हैं, चले जाते हैं, आप you spend a lifetime in intelligence. Now, 2 things. He always conceded. He may not have conceded other things. The 2 things the general always conceded. You guys are better than us. And the second, when it came to Kashmir, he would say, you know much more than me. I won't argue with you. So
you have more of Kashmir with you. We have more Kashmir. So, no, which is the best? Which agency does the world look up as a benchmark? In your experience, who has done well?
They're all very good. All very good. When you're heading the R&AW, you come into contact with the others, and the Americans, the Brits, Chinese, Russians. The only one I didn't make contact with, ironically, was Pakistan, because we had no contact at that time. People after me did make contact, but I was not allowed to make contact.
People say that China is one of the most active agencies today.
The Chinese function differently. I went to China twice in the space of 6 months. You see, I was chief for only 17 months. Although I served in the organization for 2 years, but I was chief for only 17 months. And in the space of about 6 months in 2000, I went to China twice. And what I learned about the Chinese is that they like to listen, they don't talk. And they are a very patient people. They don't rush to conclusions. Even when they understand something, they'll pretend, अच्छा, देखते हैं, examine करवा लेंगे. That is the kind of reaction. The Americans are different, the Russians are different.
How are the Americans?
Americans are very good, but they do it their way.
We talk about how money is paid to people. It has always been said that at one time Pakistan ISI is paying politicians in Kashmir. Is it really this money thing?
You see, in this game, there are a lot of motivations. Betrayal is one. Disgruntlement is another. And money is a big player. If you can help somebody out who's in need of money.
And how do agencies deal with these? We keep hearing these honey traps.
No, honey traps actually, this was a favorite of the Russians.
Really?
Yeah, obviously it's used by everybody. When there is a device which is being used somewhere in Moscow or St. Petersburg, it can also be used in London.
Are the people who are involved in this game, who are government employees, are they paid enough? Are they as well provided? You know, we see that in movies there is that wall of fame of CIA. Do we have something like that?
Unfortunately, not. Unfortunately,
You mean to
not.
say in the last 37 years you were part of an active government service, you must have heard about a lot of intelligence operatives losing their lives in the line of duty.
Yeah, there are people. There are people.
Is there a wall of fame?
No, we don't have any such thing. Today, bureaucrats are fairly well off, fairly well paid. In our time, when I retired as secretary, I think it was 7 or 8,000 was my pay.
Was it enough? Respectably enough?
Well, for those days, it was big, but government never pays you enough. That's
Then what was the motivation?
for.
What you were doing? अरे जा रहे हैं, गोली चल रही है, बम पड़ रहा है.
Oh, motivation comes from the service, you know. Once you
What?
join and you know what you're doing, and हर जगह बम नहीं फटते हैं. As I told you, 4 years in Bhopal, I was very comfortable. तो बम नहीं फटे हैं. हाँ, वो वहाँ गैस लीक हो गया था.
You were there?
I was there. जब वो सिखों को मारा था, I was there. So चीज़ें होती रहती हैं.
I want to know, do Indian politicians in power, PMs, ministers, do they respect the officials of the intelligence agencies really the way one expects them to?
That's a very good question. Not only of respect, but also the level of interest.
Yeah, engagement.
Well,
absorb
I
what
can
they're
say in my years, and I've been in Delhi for a long time now, no Prime Minister has shown more interest or had more respect for intelligence than Rajiv Gandhi did. And he also did everything for the intelligence services. Whatever the intelligence services have today, cars, this, that, all came during Rajiv's time.
Then that interesting incident about Prince Charles, that the viewers will love to listen. That Mr. Dulat spent the time with Prince Charles, who is today King Charles.
Nothing. It was 1980, November, December 1980, and I spent, I think, 12 days with him.
What were you?
Nothing. When these foreign dignitaries came.
Protocol, liaison.
I was his security, to put it exactly, security liaison officer.
Officer.
So I did that kind of duty with 3-4 people, all very.
So you did with Prince Charles. So he came.
Yeah,
And?
I traveled with him for 12 days, wherever he went. And he went around the country.
And he had a lunch with Indira Gandhi.
Yeah, he had a lunch with Indira Gandhi. I was not invited to that lunch. With the High Commissioner, who was John Thompson, and I waited in a car outside for.
Outside, and where was this meeting?
At
Safdarjung.
Yeah, at the residence.
At the residence Safdarjung Road. So what happened? There is a famous incident.
No, the famous incident is that when he came out.
Who?
Charles.
Charles. Who all were there at the lunch?
Just the family.
Family means?
So it must have been Indira, Sanjay, Manika,
Rajiv.
Sonia, and Rajiv.
Okay. That's all.
That's all.
And
Charles. Not even the High Commissioner.
and what happened after that?
I don't know. I can only tell you
No,
the Prince of Wales at that time, his reaction. He came out and the High Commissioner said, Your Highness, how did the lunch go? He said, don't ask me. So he said, what happened? He said, so Charles said, I met a lot of people all over the world. But this woman can freeze you because she says nothing.
Why did you say that?
Because he felt that.
You must have deduced it by the time, that why was he saying it?
You see, I saw Indira Gandhi closely on 4 or 5 occasions, again doing similar kind of duty. And she could be the most charming woman, and she could also freeze you. She did it with Margaret Thatcher also.
Really?
Huh?
What happened?
There was a story about the 2 iron ladies.
Mm-hmm.
The first time that Margaret Thatcher came to Delhi, again, coincidentally I was on duty with her, and the visit didn't go off particularly well because Indira was sort of sizing her up and down and whatever it is. The second time, it was a marvelous meeting.
They clicked.
They clicked, and they clicked beautifully. So when she wanted to click something, it clicked. When she didn't want to click something,
She froze.
It didn't click. It's as simple as that.
Now, that famous incident about Margaret Thatcher in Goa.
You see, it was the Commonwealth.
You were there as...
Again, I was her security liaison officer.
Okay.
Both occasions I travelled with her. And she had her security fellow, a chap called Gordon Cawthorne. And we became friends because it happened twice. And the retreat was in Goa. You know, in these conferences, they have a retreat. You can have it anywhere. Idea is that for a night or a day and a half, everybody comes and relaxes, meets in a more relaxed environment. So there was a dinner at the retreat, and after the dinner, she was staying in one of the huts on the hill. So just as dinner was finishing, Gordon said to me, "Will you be spending the night?"
With your Prime Minister?
No, with our Prime Minister.
With our Prime Minister.
Yeah. I said, "Spending the night with your Prime Minister? What have I got to do with her?" He said, no, she faces a huge threat. I said, "There's security all around. We've had it checked. See, the BSF has covered all those hills this time." He said, "You don't know the level of threat to her." You know, this was soon after that IRA attack. So
Brighton. Brighton or someplace at that time.
Brighton, yeah. I said, it's not my requirement. My requirement is to see her to the hut, and I'll go and sleep. So he said, "I'm going to sit outside." I said, "Your privilege, not for me." So we walked her up to the thing. And I saw this a few times, but it's a very touching incident, because I don't think any of our prime ministers would do it. So she said, "Are you serious, Gordon, about sitting outside?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Then just wait." She went in, brought her husband's sweater and gave it to him. She said, "It'll be cold outside." I said,
So the Prime Minister
this
of
is
England,
remarkable.
for her security detail, actually got a husband's sweater so that he doesn't feel the chill in the night.
Yeah, there was another occasion, the same visit. After a banquet at Hyderabad House, we were coming out. The Queen was also there. We were coming out.
The Queen of England?
Yeah, she was there. Commonwealth, she was there. And as we were coming out, there was a big rush in the traffic.
And you were with?
And I was sitting with her.
Okay.
Margaret Thatcher, her husband, and I used to sit in the front seat with the driver. And as we were driving out, Cawthorne used to sit in the escort, because there was no place in. So he used to sit in the escort. Again, because of his concern, he was sort of trotting along with our car.
Oh, because there was a jam, so
Traffic,
he didn't want...
Yeah, the traffic jam. So she looked out and she said, "I see Gordon trotting along. Do you think, Mr. Dulat, we could stop and put him in the car?" It is a very awkward question. Normally, As the security officer, I would have said, Madam, there is no place. But I had been with her. I said, okay. So I opened my door. Meaning कि मेरे साथ बैठ जाओ अंदर. She said, no, 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 no. I didn't mean to inconvenience you. He'll sit with us at the back.
The Prime Minister of England saying that I don't want to inconvenience you.
He will sit with us in the back, and he did sit with her at the back.
So the Prime Minister of England opened a door.
And lets a security officer in.
And where did he sit?
He sat with her.
Where was the Prime Minister sitting?
Next to him.
Corner, middle?
She was in the middle, husband and the security officer on either side.
Have you seen Indian Prime Ministers, Netas do this?
I'm saying I can't imagine it. That's exactly my point.
Dulat Sahab has already looked at his watch 4 times. We have completely overstayed his hospitality.
No.
But what I would like to say here is that after sitting for 2 hours and listening to a millionth of what he knows about Kashmir, the world of intelligence, I think if a nation needs to grow in the committee of nations as a strong nation with a good army, military, good economy and good intelligence, experience of people like Mr. Dulat needs to be constantly tapped on. Because as he said, quoted Shakespeare, I'll use one, that what's past is prologue. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure speaking to you.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful, sir.